Have you ever noticed how fragile your peace can be? One wrong word, one unexpected delay, one small disappointment, and suddenly your entire day collapses. You wake up with good intentions, but by evening, you're drained, restless, and questioning yourself. Maybe it's a harsh comment that lingers in your mind. Maybe it's the silence of someone you thought cared. Or maybe it's nothing specific at all, just that invisible weight pressing down on you when no one's around to see. You try to distract yourself. Music, scrolling, food, work. But the truth is, the storm never really passes. It just waits for a quiet moment to return, stronger than before. And here's the part most people never say out loud. You survived so much already, yet it feels like the smallest triggers can still break you. It's confusing, isn't it? You've endured heartbreak, setbacks, failures, even loss, and somehow you kept moving. But when the little things undo you, you start wondering if you'll ever be truly steady. The ancient Stoics understood this long before we did. They lived through wars, betrayal, poverty, and exile, yet their writings speak of an inner calm, a kind of unshakable strength that no storm could touch. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, men who lost more than most of us can imagine, somehow discovered a way to remain whole when everything outside of them was falling apart. They realized that peace is not found when life stops being hard. It's found when you stop being hostage to what happens around you. And this matters right now. For you, because the world is loud, unstable, unpredictable. If you don't train your mind, you'll always feel like a candle flickering in the wind, seconds away from burning out. But if you do, if you learn what the Stoics knew, you'll become something different. Not untouchable, not emotionless, but steady, like a deep-rooted tree that bends but never breaks. Over the next few minutes, I want to share with you 9 timeless Stoic truths. Not cliches, not empty motivation, but real principles that can reshape how you experience stress, conflict, and change. Some of these truths may sting. They will challenge the way you've been taught to think. But if you stay with me until the end, you'll leave with more than ideas. You'll leave with a toolkit for life, the kind of strength that doesn't fade when the world gets difficult. So, ask yourself right now, are you willing to stop running from your struggles and start mastering them? If the answer is yes, then don't move, don't click away, because a lesson that could change everything might be the next one. Truth number 1, stability beyond circumstances. Life never promised you smooth roads. Yet most of us act as if peace is only possible when everything works out perfectly. When people treat us kindly, when plans unfold exactly as we hoped, when the world gives us no reason to be upset. But reality doesn't play by that script. Delays, rejections, losses, even small annoyances, they arrive without warning, and if your calm depends on everything going right, you'll be in constant turmoil. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus, once a slave with no control over his daily existence, discovered something radical. True freedom is not about controlling events, but about controlling your response to them. His life was full of pain, humiliation, and limits, yet he learned serenity by refusing to let circumstances dictate the state of his mind. Think about the last time you lost your balance. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Maybe your partner said something careless. Maybe your phone froze at the exact wrong moment. It wasn't the event itself that destroyed your peace. It was your expectation that the world should run smoothly. The moment that expectation was violated, your calm collapsed. But what if your peace didn't depend on things going perfectly? What if you could remain steady, even when life is messy? The Stoics practiced what they called premeditation of adversity. They would visualize loss, failure, even death, not to live in fear, but to prepare their minds. By imagining the worst, they stripped it of its power. When real challenges arrived, they were already rehearsed, already fortified. Their calm wasn't an accident. It was training, and this is where you begin. Start small. The next time something minor goes wrong, a late train, a broken glass, an argument, pause. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, can I stay steady despite this? That simple question is the seed of resilience. Over time, you'll notice that what once threw you into chaos barely shakes you. Your hardest day will still hurt. Your deepest losses will still cut deep. But you'll no longer live at the mercy of every inconvenience. You'll know the strength of being anchored inside, while the world outside shifts endlessly. That's where real peace begins. Truth number 2, your thoughts are not always a truth. If the storms outside can shake us, the storms inside often drown us. Think about how many times peace was stolen not by reality, but by your own mind. A simple comment turns into a spiral. They must not like me. I must have failed. Something worse is coming. Suddenly, you're not living the moment. You're living inside a story your brain created. The Stoics understood this trap long before psychology gave it name. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't speaking as an emperor, but as a man constantly battling the noise inside his head. He knew what we often forget. Thoughts are not facts. Your mind generates thousands of them every day, and many are distorted echoes of fear, insecurity, or habit. Left unchecked, they drag you into places that don't exist. Imagine arguments, worst-case scenarios, judgments from people who probably aren't even thinking about you. But here's the liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. The Stoics trained themselves in something called objective representation. Instead of dramatizing, they described events plainly. Not, I'm humiliated, my boss hates me, but I received feedback at work. Stripped of emotional spin, the fact loses its power to control you. Try this yourself. The next time your mind whispers, everything is falling apart, pause and ask, what are bare facts here? You'll often discover there's less threat than your imagination insists. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It means creating space between the thought and your identity. A fearful thought doesn't mean disaster is coming. An angry thought doesn't mean you're a bad person. They are passing signals, like clouds drifting across the sky. Some are worth noticing. Most are not. Imagine the freedom of no longer being pulled in every direction by your mind's chatter. Imagine observing it calmly, choosing which stories to accept and letting the rest dissolve. That's not denial, that's mastery. Your thoughts can be powerful allies or cruel captors. The choice is whether you treat them as commands or suggestions. The moment you realize you don't have to obey every thought, you reclaim authority over your own life. And in that space, true calm begins to grow. Truth number 3, the strength hidden in slowing down. If your mind is weighed down by every thought, why then does peace still feel so far away? The answer is often speed. Most of us live as if we're being chased, rushing from one task to the next, scrolling endlessly, reacting before we even finish feeling. A restless mind is like a wheel spinning out of control, noisy, unstable, exhausting. No wonder calm seems impossible. The Stoics recognize that inner stillness isn't found in constant acceleration, but in deliberate presence. Seneca once wrote, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. He was pointing to something deeper than time. He was showing us that endings, pauses, and moments of stillness are what give birth to clarity. When you never stop moving, you can't see clearly. You only stumble forward. Think about the times you've truly felt grounded. It wasn't when your schedule was packed or when your phone demanded your attention. It was when you slowed down, sitting in quiet, watching a sunset, listening deeply to someone you love. In those moments, your thoughts didn't vanish, but they softened. You returned to yourself. The Stoics practiced presence not as luxury, but as survival. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by wars and betrayals, reminded himself daily to return to the moment, to his breath, to the simple acts of living. They knew what modern life has nearly forgotten. Rushing is a form of self-neglect. A racing mind steals your peace, while slowing down restores it. Here's a simple practice. Choose one daily ritual, drinking coffee, walking to your car, washing your hands, and cut your speed in half. Notice the details you usually miss. The warmth of the cup, the sound of your footsteps, the sensation of water. At first it will feel strange, even uncomfortable, because your brain is addicted to speed. But slowly, you'll find a quiet strength rising from this attention. Breath is another anchor. When your mind spins, inhale deeply, count slowly, and exhale with intention. This isn't escape. It's recalibration. Breath reminds your nervous system that you are safe, that not every thought requires a reaction, that not every moment must be hurried. Slowing down doesn't make you less productive. It makes you precise. It transforms scattered energy into focused strength. And in a world obsessed with haste, the ability to move calmly, deliberately, and fully present is not weakness. It's rare power. Truth number 4. Failure as a teacher, not an enemy. If slowing down gives you clarity, the next challenge is facing what hurts the most. Failure. No one escapes it. A broken relationship, a job you didn't get, a plan that collapsed. These moments sting so deeply that we often confuse them with identity. We whisper to ourselves, I failed, therefore I am a failure. But that is a lie. The Stoics never treated failure as a verdict. They treated it as information. Epictetus, once a slave, knew humiliation and lost better than most. Yet he said, no one can learn what they think they already know. To him, failure was not a wall but a mirror. It revealed where growth was needed, where illusions had to be stripped away, where resilience had to be built. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall countless times, yet no one calls them broken. Every fall is part of the process. Why, then, as adults, do we treat our stumbles as the end of the story? The truth is, the fall is not the problem. It's the meaning we attach to it. Marcus Aurelius endured betrayal, illness, and unimaginable losses, yet he transformed every setback into fuel. He wrote, the obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. His words remind us that adversity isn't a detour. It is the very road we're meant to walk. So how do we reframe failure? First, strip away the judgment. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what can this teach me? Instead of sinking into shame, search for clarity. Second, practice perspective. If a close friend were in your shoes, what would you tell them? Likely, you'd offer compassion. Give yourself the same. And third, use it as practice. Failure doesn't weaken you. It trains you. Every mistake is a rehearsal for resilience, a chance to return stronger. The greatest creators, leaders, and thinkers in history all left behind trails of failure. Their greatness wasn't born perfection. It was born of persistence. They fell, they learned, they adjusted. And so can you. Failure is not your enemy. It is your instructor, your sculptor, your most honest ally. When you learn to embrace it without letting it define you, you unlock a power most people spend their lives running from. Truth number 5. Guard your energy like it's sacred. After failure, another silent enemy often creeps in: exhaustion. Not just physical, but emotional and mental. Think of how often you wake up with good intentions, yet by midday you feel scattered, drained, pulled in 100 directions. The truth is, your energy is the most valuable currency you own, and most of us spend it carelessly. Seneca once wrote, it's not that life is short, it's that we waste much of it. He wasn't just speaking of time. He was pointing to the way we leak our vitality on arguments, distractions, and noise. Every pointless debate, every hour lost in endless scrolling, every replay of an old wound. These are silent withdrawals from an account you can never fully refill. The Stoics called this discipline of action, choosing carefully where to invest your energy. They understood that saying yes to everything is a form of weakness, not generosity. A life without boundaries becomes a life without focus. And when you let your attention be hijacked by every demand, you lose the strength to give to what truly matters. Look closely at your own days. How often do you argue to win instead of to understand? How much space do you give to gossip, to fear-mongering news, to worrying about things far outside your control? Each of those is a drain, leaving you with less for the people and purposes that actually deserve your heart. Protecting your energy doesn't mean living selfishly. It means living intentionally. It means refusing to let every outside disturbance dictate your inner state. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to return to the present moment, because worry about the future and regret about the past only rob us of the power we hold now. You can begin small. Notice who and what leaves you feeling empty, and notice what restores you. Silence, meaningful work, time with someone who truly listens, creating something that matters. Start protecting the first and prioritizing the second. Build boundaries the way you protect your home. Not everyone gets unlimited access to your mind. When your reserves are full, you're not only stronger for yourself, you become stronger for others. Your calm presence becomes a refuge. Your clarity becomes guidance. But first, you must honor your energy as sacred, because it is. Truth number 6. Let go of the need to always be right. Once you begin guarding your energy, you'll notice something surprising. Some of the biggest leaks come from arguments, from the urge to prove yourself, from the endless battle to always be right. Think about the last disagreement you had. Was it truly about truth, or was it about pride? The Stoics understood this trap well. Marcus Aurelius, a man who could have silenced any voice with power, chose instead to look for understanding. He reminded himself to value character over victory. Why? Because insisting on being right often costs us what matters most: connection, peace, and respect. Many of our arguments aren't about facts. They're about ego. One person clings to recognition, the other clings to validation, and both leave feeling bruised. Yet, what if the real strength was not in defeating the other, but in choosing not to fight at all? Seneca once observed that anger and pride are thieves of serenity. They cloud judgment, consume energy, and fracture relationships. A calm spirit, on the other hand, listens before reacting. It asks questions instead of delivering verdicts. It values people more than points. That is true discipline. Not silence, not weakness, but clarity rooted in self-assurance. Letting go of the need to be right doesn't mean abandoning your principles. It means you no longer measure yourself by how many debates you win. You measure yourself by how wisely you live. Sometimes the wisest word is not, "You're wrong," but "I see it differently." That simple shift can turn confrontation into conversation, tension into trust. Ask yourself, the next time you feel heat rising in your chest, is this worth your peace? Will proving your point strengthen the bond or erode it? Often, what looks like winning is really losing. Losing calm, losing respect, losing connection. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the ability to pause before reacting, to question whether the thought rising in you deserves obedience. That pause is power. It is a moment where you choose peace over pride. In the end, being right may satisfy your ego, but being wise will satisfy your soul. And when wisdom guides your words, you don't just protect your energy, you elevate it. You create space for others to feel heard, and in return, your influence deepens. That's the paradox. The less you need to be right, the more weight your voice carries. Truth number 7. Build your life from the core outward. After you release the urge to always be right, a deeper challenge remains. How do you build a life that no storm can tear apart? The Stoics believe the answer lies in living from the inside out, constructing your stability on unshakable values, not fragile outcomes. Most of us do the opposite. We let moods rise and fall with the world approval. A kind word lifts us. A criticism crushes us. Success fills us with pride. Failure leaves us hollow. We become puppets to forces we cannot control. But the Stoics knew, if your peace depends on shifting weather outside, you will never stop trembling. Epictetus, once enslaved, had nearly nothing the world calls freedom. Yet he discovered an inner freedom no master could touch. He realized no insult, no loss, no chain could enter the sanctuary of his mind without his consent. That is what it means to live from the core, to anchor your sense of self in principles, not in praise or possessions. Imagine a tree in heavy winds. Branches sway, leaves scatter, yet the trunk stands rooted. Why? Because its strength doesn't come from what's on the surface. It comes from what runs deep underground. Your values are those roots. Integrity, patience, compassion, courage. When you choose to live by them, the storms may shake you, but they cannot uproot you. This doesn't mean you stop caring about achievements or relationships. It means they no longer own your identity. You still work hard, still love deeply, still pursue dreams. But when setbacks arrive, they no longer define you. You remain whole because your center is intact. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire surrounded by betrayal and war, reminded himself, very little is needed to live a happy life. It is all within yourself. His power didn't come from armies. It came from perspective. He lived proof that the strongest fortress is not stone, but spirit. So ask yourself, each morning, am I letting the world tell me who I am, or am I building my life from my own foundation? Each evening, Reflect. Did I act according to my values, or did I hand over control to others? When you live from the core outward, you stop chasing validation. You stop fearing change. You discover a peace that isn't borrowed from circumstances, but grown from within. That is not just survival. It is true freedom. Truth number 8, the courage to begin again. Even with strong roots, life has a way of pulling us into endings we never expected. A career dissolves, a relationship fades, a dream collapses, and suddenly the identity we clung to no longer fits. In those moments, it feels like everything is lost. But the Stoics remind us, starting over is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest acts of strength. Seneca once wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." He didn't mean counting years. He meant using every chapter, even the painful restarts, as material for a fuller existence. Beginning again isn't erasing your past. It's folding every lesson, every scar, every failure into the foundation of your new path. Nothing is wasted. Think of the countless people who reinvented themselves after loss. A soldier who becomes a teacher. A failed business owner who builds something wiser the second time. A heartbroken lover who rediscovers joy in a different kind of relationship. From the outside, these shifts may look like defeat, but in truth they are evolution. The courage lies not in clinging to what's gone, but in trusting you are capable of creating again. Starting over requires facing the unknown, and the unknown terrifies most people. That's why so many stay in dead jobs, broken relationships, or hollow routines. Because the discomfort of change feels scarier than the pain of stagnation. But here's the secret. The first step into the unknown is always the hardest. Once you take it, momentum builds, and you realize you are never as fragile as you feared. The Stoics practiced detachment from outcomes, so they could move freely when life demanded change. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that everything is transient: success, failure, joy, sorrow. Knowing this freed him to adapt rather than resist. He didn't see new beginnings as losses of identity, but as invitations to live more fully aligned with his values. So when you find yourself at crossroads, don't ask, "Why did I lose everything?" Instead, ask, "What can I build with who I become?" That shift in perspective turns endings into openings. Beginning again isn't quitting. It's choosing growth over stagnation, authenticity over appearances, courage over comfort. And in that decision, you reclaim not just your future, but your power. Truth number 9, living from the inside out. After everything you've endured, losses, failures, disappointments, and fresh beginnings, the final truth is this: peace, strength, and clarity cannot be handed to you by the world outside. They must be cultivated from within. Most people live in reverse. They let moods rise and fall, depending on someone else's opinion. They let confidence hinge on success. They let joy vanish whenever circumstances shift. That's a fragile way to exist, like being a leaf tossed around by every wind. The Stoics discovered a stronger way, to live from the inside out. Epictetus, once enslaved, found freedom not by controlling his master, but by mastering himself. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire in chaos, reminded himself that very little is needed to live a happy life. It is all within yourself. And Seneca, stripped of wealth and power, still wrote about life's richness because he drew from his inner resources, not external possessions. Living from the inside out means building your identity on values, not victories. Integrity, courage, patience, compassion. These are unshakable foundations. When you ground yourself in them, the storms may rage, but your center holds. People may misunderstand you, but you won't collapse. Dreams may shift, but your worth remains intact. This doesn't mean withdrawing from life or ignoring goals. It means carrying a steady inner climate, no matter the outer weather. You still work hard, love deeply, and chase purpose, but you're not chained to outcomes. You can lose without despair, win without arrogance, and walk calmly through uncertainty, because your anchor is inside, not outside. Try the simple practice. Each morning, ask yourself, who do I want to be today, regardless of what happens? At night, reflect, did I live by my values, or did I let the world steer me? Over time, you'll notice your self-respect grows deeper than any praise, and your calm lasts longer than any success. This is the freedom the Stoics fought for, not freedom from difficulty, but freedom from being controlled by difficulty. When you live from the inside out, you stop being a victim of life's chaos and start becoming the author of your own strength. That's not just philosophy, it's liberation. If these truths stirred something deep inside you, don't let this be just another video you watched and forgot. Transformation doesn't happen in silence. It begins when you take action, when you commit to carrying these lessons into your own life. So here's my invitation. Pause for a moment and choose one truth that resonated most with you today. Maybe it was about finding calm when things fall apart. Or maybe it was about guarding your energy or beginning again after loss. Whatever it was, write it in the comments, not just for me, but as a vow to yourself, a public declaration that you are ready to grow stronger. And don't keep the strength to yourself. There's someone in your circle, someone you love, someone struggling quietly, who needs to hear this just as much as you did. Share this video with them. Be the reminder that they are not broken, but breaking open. Finally, if you want to keep walking this path with me, hit subscribe. Together, we're building more than a channel. We're building a community of people who choose resilience over despair, clarity over chaos, and growth over comfort. Stay with us. Your future self will thank you.